Now let's welcome Dr. Poon Liat, Consultant Pediatrician Surgeon of Thomson Paediatric Center, to give us a presentation on the health benefits of ketogenic diet. Dr. Ang, please.
Don't be fooled by the fact that what goes in comes out, that's fine. That's not true. The law of thermodynamics is not so accurate when it comes to weight management. Because once you reduce your weight by 10%, survival instinct kicks in and you'll be craving for food. So there must be something else that we can do to prevent weight accumulation, because that is the basis of obesity. Now, there are many diets in the market, but the one that's closest to it is Atkins diets. And that's how I think momentum is based. And I went through momentum and I realized that there's an ingredient which I think is positive in this direction. It is primarily a high-fat diet. We call it ketogenic diet. It also has certain support, cellular support, which are important because this cellular hunger is very powerful. It overrides your determination. And there are ingredients inside there which actually calm your system so that you can continue your journey and maintain. Now, the key to this momentum is actually ketogenic diet. It sounds funny, but it means ketone-based diet. Oops, sorry. So your first question is, what is ketogenic diet? This is different from the diabetic diet. It's called ketoacidosis. That is dangerous. It can kill you. But this is absolutely fine. Now, there is essentially, what is ketogenic diet? It's the original diet. Right from the very beginning of life, when we breastfeed, it's actually ketogenic diet. It's high-fat diet. You get all the cream and butter. And when you're hunters, you actually kill animals. The first thing to eat is the brain, because it will rot. So the muscle will hang up and dry for famine times. And they take nuts, and they are seasonal, and they eat eggs and the fish. They can hunt. The plants are toxic. There's no fire, because to nurture the toxin, you have to cook it. So in those days, they are mainly ketogenic. In other words, they're actually high-fat diet and high-protein diet. That's Atkins diet. So what is this diet? It's high-fat, low-sugar. And it's to force the body to turn from sugar to fat, because fat and is much healthier. And I'll tell you why. Because we are evolved to consume fat. But unfortunately, the fat we use nowadays are long chain, which cannot reach the brain. And you need the brain, because when you feed, you must feed not only your body, but your brain. So you have to convert the long chain into ketones by the liver. And only ketone is water soluble, it gets to the brain and feed the brain. And that's why when you sleep at night, from dinner at 6 to wake up breakfast at 6, you're 12 hours. Your glycogen is gone. You're actually burning ketones. And when you fast over weekends or you go into fasting, your ketone diet. And most commonly, when you run a marathon, after 2 hours, your glycogen sugar is bankrupt. You have to run on fat. You hit the wall. They call it hit the wall. You feel terrible. And your adrenaline comes up and it releases the fat. And you run for the next 8 hours on ketones. Literally, you are a ketone burner when you're running a marathon. So end of the journey, you feel good. Just show that when you fast, you feel spiritual and you feel fine. And that's ketone. So ketone is not a weird thing. It's a real thing. If you sit down there for a whole day, you're running on fat. You're not running on sugar. Sugar is a standby nutrient. It's for two things. It's emergency sugar. It's for emergency energy. In other words, someone trying to kill you, the sugar will give you the instant response. And the second part is the dangerous part. Excess is converted to fat and store for reserve for rainy days. And nature gives us this reserve to tire us during those days when we have famine and all that. But where got famine, where got short of food, you go to the supermarket and get everything you want. And we are loading and loading and loading. And that's why obesity is rising, because it's a convenience and it is nice. And just now when she said, the first speaker said, it's addictive, all right? This happens on 10,000 years ago when we started agricultural revolution. We start growing grains because our ancestors have to travel to where the food is. It's difficult for survival. You have the wrong hit, wrong occasion, you die. So they start farming because then there's stability. You can store, you can trade grains. But they forgot one thing, and now realized that carbohydrate coming from grains and seeds are addictive. So we love bread, we love noodles, we love everything that's sugar. And that's why we are now in an epidemic now, all right? So what's wrong with sugar? I mean, all of us are, well, not me, but all of us are sugar burner. We must be fat burner. So we have converted 10,000 years into sugar burner. We are carbohydrate addicts. And we talk about addiction to cigarette, alcohol. It's minor, only a certain fraction. But most of us are carbohydrates. It's the world #1 legal addiction. All right? Now I say that glucose is toxic. A lot of you are surprised by that because it is. So nature has produced an insulin to keep it down. You eat a heavy carbohydrate diet, the sugar goes up, insulin goes up, bring it right down because it's going to poison your body. And I'll tell you why. First, the whole idea of sugar is energy. If you're hyperactive or you have some disorder, you have mood swings. So you take sugar, it goes up, you feel good, you go to work. By mid-morning, your sugar goes down because driven by insulin, and you go into depression, anxiety, and lethargy. Then you must have what they call a pick-me-up again at mid-morning. You have a cup of coffee, which is stimulant, it's not right, but you take something like a snack. And that gives you another boost, and you go on to lunchtime, and then tea time, and dinner time, and fortunately you sleep. But it's need to be boosted. Otherwise, you get moody. So this up, hyperactive, down, depression, is typical of carbohydrate addicts. Number 2, because it is up and down, the brain cell is the one that gets the hardest hit because your mood is a brain problem. And as a result, you find that if you have a tendency to fit, you throw fits. And if you have a mood problem, you have behavioral disorder. Some of the criminals are done because of these mood changes. Criminals. Hitler. He's alcoholic. He's not alcoholic, he's a sugar addict. Sorry for this time gap. Of course, here today we're talking about excessive sugar will convert into fat, and this is about nature design to make sure that you have reserve. And of course, it increases insulin. You end up with insulinemia, insulin resistance, you have diabetes, you have metabolic syndrome, which has been elaborated earlier. And of course, you increase metabolism, you burn more, you have more inflammation, you end up with chronic inflammatory disease. So sugar insulins are inflammatory agents. And of course, it stimulates insulin, it stimulates IGF growth hormone 1, and it pushes in proliferation, cell proliferation, and cancer. And you know that cancer cell food for cancer, sugar is cancer food. And if you go and do a PET scan, for example, if you have a cancer, you go and see a doctor, say, I better check you, make sure you got your staging, whether you're stage 1 or stage 2 or stage 4. They put the PET scan. You know what PET scan is? Based on this concept that sugar is cancer food. Cancer cell has 6 times more affinity for sugar than normal cells. So when you go and do the scan, they take out your blood, and they give this insulin, this glucose tagged with iron isotope, and give some insulin, and then put in this isotope, and you know who bites it first? Cancer cells take the first bite. 6 times more affinity. And you scan it, there you are, caught. That's how you scan. And that's based on this principle that sugar is cancer food. You have cancer, please don't touch sugar because you are feeding the system. Now, of course, the last is also food for fungus and bacteria. If you take a lot of sugar, you're going to get sick very often because you are fanning the proliferation of this organism. So, we come to the next question is ketogenic diet therefore good or bad? Is it dangerous? Without sugar, you have 3 benefits. Of course, today we're talking about healing obesity. You stop accumulation straight away. And you starve cancer cells if you have cancer. And of course, a lot of us benefit from the third one. It calms your brain. You're very cool. You're not swing. There's no swing because it doesn't stimulate insulin. Therefore, there's no mood swing. Therefore, you're steady state. So when you go fasting, you're very calm and you're very spiritual because it's steady. And When you're resting, you're on actually fat diet and you're steady. But when you run, exert, you must have sugar because it's emergency sugar, energy source, so you must run. So, coming to the practical part, what sort of things we do eat? There are basically 3 grades. For me, I'm on this diet. This is called low glycemic diet because you want to cut down sugar. But I'm not fat. I don't have a problem. And therefore, you just trim down your fat. Means you go a bit low sugar, starch, and a little bit low glycemic index food. You cut off your low in the fructose. You can maintain your calorie because your in and out is adequate. So first thing is don't accumulate fat. Keep it status quo. And of course, you have to replace energy, so that comes from fat. So your fat ratio to the protein and carbo is about 1:1, and you moderate your protein. I'll tell you why. Protein also makes you accumulate weight. So you can go long term, no problem. You can do it yourself, very easy. And that's the diet. Now, but if you have obesity, it's slightly different. You need to reduce. Not only maintain, must reduce a little bit to trim down. So you have one more component in the science section, reduce fat reserve. So you trim down your calorie intake per day by 60 to 70%. So it's a slow burning out of your reserve, all right? Because of that, you need a nutritionist like here to help you to moderate your performance, your biochemistry, because it does have some impact on you because you remember, you are a sugar burner for all these years. When you change to fat metabolism, fat burner, there's some chemistry changes because you're adapting and you must be monitored for a short while. But it's very safe. You can go on long term for life. Now, of course, you have a disease, you have obesity, and you have other problems like heart disease, hypertension, and your BMI is more than 40, you're in a dire state. You have to do it fast, and you must do it well. Otherwise, you die from either heart attack, hypertension, strokes, or cancer. So you have to go for a quick job. And this is a classical ketogenic diet. We use it for treating cancer, for fits, for Alzheimer's, and all these drugs. It just shows that sugar causes all this. And when you reverse it to fat, all these diseases will go down. All right? Now, because this is a very aggressive treatment, you need to be monitored, preferably by a doctor, because you have to check your biochemistry, and there's a downswing. So you have to monitor this. So what are the benefits? Well, of course, the first most important thing, you bring down insulin. There's no swing, so insulin resistance goes, your obesity goes down, diabetes goes down, and it's clear. All right, especially type 2 diabetes. And of course, you knocked out your leptin resistance, your appetite begins to become more balanced. You eat when you need to eat and not eat for comfort, for other reasons. And of course, you cut down burning, less energy expenses means less oxidative stress, therefore less inflammation. So inflammation accumulates 10% of your fluid weight. So normally when you go on the diet, you lose actually water weight, which is 10%. But that's only the beginning of the journey. The real thing is the next 10%. That's tough, all right? So most diet will tell you 10% off in the first 1 month. But then be careful, all right? They will go down beyond that. So this diet momentum has this sustaining effect that keeps you going downwards. Most diet play the trick, 10% I guarantee you. Sure enough, it did. But actually, it's clearing inflammation, water, which is 10%. Improve the biochemistry, your sugar goes down. Good for you. I tell you why. Because sugar causes what they call this glycation end product, and that's the beginning of your degeneration and aging. And of course, bring down insulin, good for you, low inflammation. What are the side effects? What's the downside? Downside is, well, when you're going through a new diet, there's a bit of a constipation, oil get a little bit sticky and a little bit more bulky. You get a little mild acidosis because it's a ketosis, but it's very mild and it's transient. And later on, when you start changing the diet a little bit, when they adjust upwards, you find that you'll be resolved. It got a bit low sugar initially if you're hungry, big craving, but after a while, your body adapts to a low level. It's like when you say, okay, I'm not going to take sugar in my coffee. Initially, you find it difficult. But after a while, you find your taste is so good that you find you cannot tolerate sugar. This is called adaptation. Another of this adaptation, all right? Low insulin growth factor. Although it has some side effects on the child, the plus point is cut down proliferation and cancer. Remember that, all right? It raises a little bit of triglyceride, a little bit cholesterol, because you are eating mainly fat, and fat tend to have this thing in your system, all right? It is the composition of fat. But again, this is transient. The cholesterol is all right, provided it's natural, not oxidized. That's the trick, all right? So where do you get this stuff? When you talk about ketogenic diet, you talk about food. Now, there's a list of food for you. And of course, I think the Momentum has a list of food that they advise you to. But in principle, these are the diet. Short chain, medium chain, virgin coconut oil. That's the best. That's a very powerful ketogenic diet. And because it's short, it burns up very fast. It goes into ketones and sent to the brain. And some of this can even enter the brain itself to help you, to give instant sustenance. Long chain, like virgin oil and all these nuts and beans and seeds and corn oil, they are long chain, a little bit more difficult. You can't get to the brain. Unfortunately, the liver has to convert into ketones to get into the brain, make it water soluble and smaller molecules. All right, then the brain can utilize it. So brain can use three things: ketones, sugar, and glutamine, which is a protein. Cancer cells can close glutamine and sugar, but they can't consume, assimilate ketones. That's why when you go on ketone diet for cancer, you actually starve them to death. First of all, don't give sugar. Give them ketone, they can't take it. They will die of starvation, all right? Saturated fat like butter and cream is fine. Again, you need to convert it. And of course, the essential amino acids. And this is where, like Momentum, it gives you the supplement. If you go on your own Momentum, eat your own diet and all that, you find that you tend to play calorie games. Not good enough. You need certain factors and certain vitamins to make the cellular, cut down cellular hunger. And that's powerful because it keeps you going and keeps you sustaining. So things like cofactor, amino acids, minerals like magnesium, zinc, iodine, all these are part of the intracellular mitochondrial function ingredients for burning of fat, all right, especially L-carnitine. So in conclusion, obesity is caused by fat accumulation, and fat accumulation is caused by fructose. Now, fructose is the killer. Actually, we all thought sugar is the culprit, but sugar is not really a key culprit. Fructose is nature's secret weapon to make you accumulate. Let me tell you a story. When we winter, we are hunters, and fruits only comes out, fructose is about fruits, right? Comes out only in one season called late summer, autumn. And they have to, the fruits are there, and the animals will eat them, and they hibernate over winter. And they can last, the accumulation of fat is about double their weight, and they go to diabetic status. And they go into the cave and the bear, for example, and they hibernate for 3 months. As spring comes out, they lose all the fat. They are back to square one. Scrawny, life starts again. In other words, unlike us, the animals turn on, turn off. We turn on and on. That's the difference, okay? All right, so that's why they live long, but we don't. We suffer from the disease of fat accumulation. Glucose, of course, I was talking about it, but if you take and burn, because it's easily burnt, fructose cannot be burned off. It has to be converted to sugar, glucose, before it can be used. So it's a little bit difficult. And the byproduct of fructose metabolism is uric acid, which is the key, it's nature's secret to turn on glucose accumulation. Normal glucose like that, fructose creating uric acid is the one that push 100% into fat accumulation. You understand that? It is the secret that turn on this so-called fat accumulation project. So it's nature fruit, fruits come in autumn to turn whatever the bear eats into fat storage. So please don't eat sweet fruits. I know the market always tell you, hey, this is very good, not very sweet. So you all buy that. Or sometimes you ask them, sweet or not? Sweet, okay. Because we are taught to be sweet. Because sweet is a very powerful taste nature designed for us to chase after sweetness. Because sweet means sugar. Sugar means energy stored, reserved for future famine. That is an instinct that we are driven. You can't control that unless you learn how to desensitize your tongue. Weight reduction, therefore, you eliminate fructose, sugar, and fructose syrup. Fructose came from sugar, mainly high corn syrup. Earlier you saw the video clip about that U.S. government financed obesity about a tune of $5.1 billion. You know where it goes to? Corn farming. And where it comes corn to? Most of them go to high fructose corn syrup, which you add into all your drinks, all your food, and all that. You know why? Because sugar is expensive, corn syrup is cheap, and it's much sweeter. Sugar is 50% glucose and 50% fructose. The high fructose corn syrup is 60 fructose, so it's sweeter, therefore use less. And it's so cheap because it's mass-produced and subsidized by the government, and they flood the world with this. But it's a Japanese creation, but Japanese smart, they don't use it. The Americans use it. And we are in this trouble now because you can't control. It's a market force that is forcing them to switch on from sugar to high fructose corn syrup. Now, glucose reduction is simple. Cut down carbo, cut down starch, and use protein. Now, protein, look up number 0.2, branch-chain amino acids. Because this essential amino acids, there are 8 essential amino acids, and 3 of them are able to stimulate insulin, and also can stimulate mTOR, which actually stimulates cell proliferation. That means you put on cells, you put on weight. That's what it does. So don't underrate protein. Eat your moderation protein. Don't eat too much. It's good for you. Cut down your cancer, and don't feed your obesity. Okay. Therefore, ketogenic diet will correct all this for you. And that's why this diet is the nearest so far, other than Akin. Akin doesn't give you a guide. You can go into that. But this one has a package, which I'm not promoting. I'm just telling you that in the market, this is something that a normal person can actually go ahead and do it. Thank you. And thank you. And just a bit of my commercial time. I told him that, what's my kickback coming to talk? Well, this information is taken from my book, which I've written. We're coming out in July the 1st. It's a gift of 2 book set. The first book is called The Wonders of Nutrition. It tells you 3 components, your genes, how your body behaves. That's why we're all individuals. Tell you about the healing lifestyle and that what you must do correctly. And when you talk about third part, second part is the nutrition. Nutrition has 2 parts. The good, beneficial one, which we all eat. But we forget there's a dark side to food. They must know why, because it causes inflammation, causes diseases. So when you have the right food, with the right genes, and the right lifestyle, you have optimal health. But despite of that, all of us still fall through the crack, like obesity and allergy and all that. And the second book is called The Roadmap to Recovery, to tell you some of the diseases that help you to cover by nutrition. These 2 books are all about nutrition. There's no medicine here, all right? So if you are the person who like naturopathic and you want to go on in a natural way, God has made everything there for you. You must have the knowledge to hunt for it and use it. And this book will give you a guidance. So this is how it's coming out soon. It's dedicated to mothers, because mother is concerned with family well-being, and they hold the key to nutrition, and of course to humanity. We depend on our mothers, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ang. Now